2016 when our Congress decided to lift the ban on inclusionary zoning, and so allowing local governments to mandate that developers build affordable housing. How many people heard about that?
Let's call it semi-affordable housing.
Right, yes, it is definitely flawed, and there is work to do. Thank you. What about Kate Brown signing this bill in March of 2016 that said, okay, any tenant that gets any rent increase statewide has to get 90 days notice. Okay, so a few people remember that too. What about this? February 2016, the City Council of Portland said, okay, if a landlord is drastically increasing the rent or giving a no-cause eviction that's displacing the tenant, they have to give relocation assistance. Okay. And lastly, this past legislative session, how many people heard about that bill that was going through Congress to try and get rid of no-cause evictions and allow for rent control? I put this picture up here because it went through the House, but it didn't make it through the Senate, so it's not a law.
It also sounds like you're talking about the state legislature, which is a statewide, not federal, which is Congress.
The state legislature, thank you for correcting that, absolutely. So these are just Oregon laws. So what's missing from these stories are the people that fought for it, right? These are all headlines that I found when I was doing some research in local newspapers in the Oregonian. And these are the corresponding pictures, and what we see are like a lot of elected officials doing amazing things. And we do have some really awesome allies who are elected officials, but that's not the whole picture, right? So before the City Council declared a housing state of emergency, there were a whole lot of tenants who stood up and said, we're in crisis and we need you to act. So there's a social media campaign, there were people that were rallying, and we also tapped the City Hall to say, you know, we need you to act now. And that's also what led to getting that 90 days notice for tenants who had those big rent increases. There's no cause evictions in Portland. And then on the state side, you know, tenants started speaking up, speaking to the media, speaking directly to their elected officials, so that elected officials knew what their stories were and they knew the impact of these laws. And when some elected officials didn't want to listen to those tenants and didn't really care whether those tenants stayed housed, people started making phone calls and they started writing letters. And we started door knocking and going into the districts where tenants, representatives, and senators were actually not really listening to them. And we marched here, we marched in Salem, we went to the Capitol many times, and we packed the Capitol, and there's some more rallying at the Capitol, and there's also some creative direct action, and we're like, all right, the whole Senate needs to be evicted. And I include this to say, you know, we're not going to get anywhere if we just sit as individuals and wait for elected officials to make decisions, and we need to really be building power together. That's what it's taken to get us this far, and we need a whole lot more of people coming together to actually be able to control the rent and control our. In the next slide, I'm going to the Nez Perce people who, in the 1870s, were fighting for housing justice. They were fighting white settlers coming in and trying to steal their land, pushing them onto reservations. Right? This fight is not new. So even though many of us are starting to get activated and many new organizations are starting to form, we have to remember our local history, our Oregon history. So this is a person who's fighting against the laws that were in the Oregon Constitution preventing Black people from living in the state and from owning land in the state. And in the 1960s, the NAACP was flyering outside of City Hall and outside of a nearby federal building to say the Housing Authority has these segregationist policies and we need them to change. This is the 10-point program from the Black Panther Party that had a really active chapter in Portland in the 1970s. They were fighting for many things, including number 4, we want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. And here are some people from Albina neighborhood picketing when the city and the Portland Development Commission and also Emmanuel Hospital decided to tear down Black neighborhoods. And so, yeah, we share this because we want to really remember that we have a rich history of organizing in Oregon that we can lean on, and this work goes deep. And I'm going to pass it back to Emily. Landlords can't raise the rent any more than 10% in a given year. That law would be illegal. So before we can have any kind of local control over the rent, we have to lift the ban on rent control. And there's also that law that says, hey, if a landlord doesn't like you as a tenant, they don't have to give you a reason. They can give you a no-cause eviction. And we feel like this is really tied to this question of like, why is the rent so high? Because if we did get rent control and landlords could only raise the rent, let's say 5% in a given year, a landlord could just say, oh, you know what, I'm giving you a no-cause eviction anyway. Don't worry about the rent increase, you're not going to get it. The next tenant will just get that. So we really see these as two crucial laws keeping the rent from being under control. Does anyone have questions about these laws before we move forward? Do you have a question?
Do you know how many states have bans on rent control? Is Oregon the only one?
That's a good question. You know?
Yeah, there's more than 36 states that currently have a statewide ban. And Colorado is following Oregon's example, and they're starting in January when their session opens. They're going to be the second state to push for statewide just cause.
And is it correct that San Francisco and New York City have rent control?
Yeah. Those cities, individual cities do, but
There's no state like that.
but 36 of the states have a statewide ban on it.
And there's a hand over here too. Yeah, Russell.
Well, this is a total newbie question, but when you do say no cause eviction, you mean like not necessarily not within the life of the lease. Like they can't evict you within the duration of the lease.
That's a great question.
Right.
Not during a fixed term lease. If you sign like a 1-year lease or something, they can't evict you. But if you're on a month-to-month rental agreement, they can say, you know what, we don't want to rent to you anymore.
Right.
And in some places in Oregon, just give 30 days notice. Yeah.
I think when we talk about the fact that 30-some states, including Oregon, have rent control, it touches a little bit on the issue of language and niceness that was raised and inclusivity. Rent control wasn't built into the Constitution. It didn't come from Allah or the Bible or anywhere. It came because people who aren't necessarily greedy landlords, maybe they were just looking for return on investment, but they pushed that law through the legislature to protect their private financial interests.
So I do want to move us to talking about who actually, we're getting to that question, I think, who actually controls the rent and how we can build power to control the rent ourselves. How many people in this room are familiar with power mapping? Have you ever made a power? Okay, cool. So this is a tool that we sometimes use. I'm going to bring this in. This is a tool that we sometimes use when we're working on a new campaign, and we want to figure out, okay, who are the power players? Who are the people that we and the entities that we need to target in order to get what we want? So as a way of explaining what a power map is, we are going to use this power map. We're going to take the example of us. Let's say we are all living in a building together, and our goal is for our rent not to increase. We're going to plot these people and entities on this power map. And I know it's kind of maybe hard to see for some people, so I'm going to tell you what it says. So on this side, this axis, the x-axis up here, it's our agenda. So these are people who are really supportive, people who would be on this side of the map. And this is the opposition. So this is the opposing agenda. This is whoever wants our rent to increase in this scenario. And then on the other axis, the y-axis, we have the decision-making power. So someone who was at the very top of the, of this axis, who has the most power to make a decision, could you know, if they were all the way over here, maybe they can just set. Maybe it's the landlord in this situation. The landlord's not going to raise the rent because they have the decision-making power, and they just really love their tenants. And at the very bottom is like not on the radar. They're not on the radar of like any decision maker, so really not influential at all. So I'm gonna share some of these examples that we came up with. People who might have in our building that we all live in together, where we don't want the rent to go up. These are people and entities that might have some amount of power to either keep the rent from going up or make the rent go up. I'm going to ask for volunteers to place this. So the first one we have, no thank you, is a sympathetic local newspaper. Who can volunteer to place this on the car map somewhere?
Everybody wants to make money on their retirement investment. The largest investor in real estate trusts is PERS. So you want to know why it's happening? It's because those investors need to make money.
So I'm hearing, you know, like treating housing as like an investment, right? Like this kind of the speculation, the greed, it's like a source of wealth generation, but in a very like extreme way. Okay, can we hear?
Can I just say one thing? I'm really solution oriented.
Yeah.
And when you use terms like greed, then that pits people against each other. When you can use a different word like return on investment, or then it can include other people. But using greed, it's not just greed, because that means that you who wants a raise, what we should be focusing on is people making more money, is people having more income so that they can afford more, so that the circle grows instead of cutting people off and pitting us against each other. We all are in this together. This is a global problem. It's a global problem. So it starts by, yeah, let's get universal health care, because trust me, people, small landlords don't want to do it. It's not for their health, it's that they need a retirement program. So anybody who's invested in a mutual fund or a pension plan, you want to make money on that, right? So you have money to retire. And so we need to break it down into something more palatable so everybody isn't fighting with each other. We need to get along and create a solution, not a bigger problem and a bigger chasm.
Well, not all landlords are kind either. So they aren't.
But that,
So I'm hearing that it's complicated, right? Because we live in a world where there's certain systems that you need to buy into and participate in to have a livelihood and security. So that's kind of what I heard from you, and that the way we talk about things and the way we name things and framing things is very important. It has an impact. And so I just want to do like a quick show of hands. Who feels like rent and housing is a racial issue? All right. Thank you. Can I just have a few volunteers just name, in what ways do they see it being a racial issue locally? Yes.
Okay, in my experience working on the Renters' Rights Hotline, there's a very high incidence of a new landlord coming into neighborhoods that have been historically black, and say by an apartment complex where a lot of the folks there are black, and they just begin evicting them or raising the rent so much that people can't afford it and they have to move. I also see a really high incidence of harassment from landlords against black women if they're black veterans. That's my experience on it.
Thank you. One more person share. In what ways is rent and housing a racial issue here?
On the application process, I've seen that people of color experience discrimination very frequently.
One more, I think we're having this.
Yeah. When you don't get the service that white people get. You know, like when you're black, you're always discounted. They are slow to remedy, you know, like if there's something that needs repaired. They treat you like it's like they don't have to hurry up and do it. Even though it's their property and it stands to go bad. You know, I kept complaining about mold and they'd come over there and they'd slap something over it. The mold would grow somewhere else. And so I called, after a while I got tired of it and I called the city of Portland and he came out and they got it fixed because he was finding them every day until they did. And then there was dog urine in the hallway. And for 2 months I kept telling her it was hot and flies were coming in, you couldn't even get in your door, the flies were flying in there. And she said, oh, we're working on it, we're working on it. For 2 months they worked on it. So I called City of Portland Housing, you know, and told them, not housing, but buildings, whatever. And I told them about Bureau of Development. And he called them and they got it cleaned right away. And I think that they don't like that. They think that you should take whatever you should get. So that's why they raised my rent to almost 10%, but 50 cents less a month than 10%, so that they don't have to pay me relocation. But I'm going to see about that too.
Thank you for sharing. So we don't have a lot of time to actually like directly as a group kind of address this question right now in this form, but trust us that the rest of this workshop will absolutely explore this and answer this, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have different answers to this. Before we kind of move on to the next portion, I do want to say the reason why I asked whether or not folks feel like this is a racial issue is because if we do think it is, then whatever organizing and policies we develop and solutions we develop have to have a racial justice lens. And I think actually it's important to recognize like the neighborhood we're in right now, the land we're on right now, it was stolen, you know, and this neighborhood is not the way it used to be. And Asher talked a lot about the black organizing that went down in this neighborhood, and so it's just important for us to carry that and remember that as we move forward. And so we actually have like a brief list of responses to why is the rent so high. Laws, lawmakers, and landlords. And so that's a very simple, we just want to keep it simple, but this is a policy issue, this is a legislative issue, and the people who make laws are part of it, but lawmakers are absolutely connected to us, right? And so we are part of the picture. Landlords also clearly a huge determinant in our rent and housing, and so we just kind of wanted to tease these out and highlight these. Cool. Thanks, y'all.
Who determine the rent rates. They, with all that financial power, they can lobby rather effectively, and they're part of the model that really sets the market rate, if you will. I'm just going to go on to our next answers.
Go for it.
We thought what might be able to influence them policy. We thought that directly advocating that the landlord advocacy organization do something would be ineffective, that when it comes down to it, they're not going to actually take an action that would please us, but that getting government to strangle them would get an action that we would want.
So y'all
and
thought
bad press.
that like government, so public influencing private?
Yeah, in that manner, yeah. 3 actions. We thought that a campaign for a series of laws that would constrain a landlord advocacy organization would need direct action. It would need lobbying at the state and local, or at the local and the city and county level, and also at the state legislature level. We would need community activists. We would need people who are not already involved in tenants' rights and neighborhood associations and coalition building. And the steps would be to show to other organizations that that this is a united issue and that you care about their issue, and do things like involve them and give them low asks like petitioning and
who would want to be able to influence it. Since he is running for re-election, he has a tough district. He's worried about, donations, volunteers, any support. And we thought, we should at least talk a primary for who's threatened one. Find a progressive who would at least, threaten one against him. That might get his attention. Democratic donors, progressives in the district. He's Catholic, it's a Catholic district. And, big donors like Gideons and whatnot, he needs to win. What are 3 actions that can influence him to this target goal? Visit his office. He is the Senate President, so his office is always open at the Capitol. Rallies there too. Again, primary opponent, or at least talk about an opponent in the media. Let's see, working with other groups, unions, Latinos, a lot of Latinos in the district. And also supporting Rod Monroe's opponents by shooting at whoever else is running and letting Courtney know that we're supporting Monroe's opponents. Coach needs to build with Mobilize Take Action. Progressive groups there, we mentioned CASA, Human Advocacy Group, unions, universities, social justice Catholics. Marion County is fairly Democratic, at least a swing county. And let's say steps we should take to build these relationships. Again, supporting another candidate, at least building support for a progressive candidate, or using that as a wedge against Courtney. Town halls, going to his town halls, and again, calls, emails, and whatnot to his office.
Thank you. And how many people do you think you would have to organize for this target and influence this target?
His entire district. Yeah. No, seriously, this dude, he is so...
Probably 100 at least.
He's extremely powerful and he's extremely stubborn. Despite the fact that we had 15 votes and likely would have had the 16th vote if the bill was brought to the floor, he refused to bring it to the floor. Despite direct action, despite calls, despite horrific stories, business people, tenants, you name it. We threw it all at him. He would not budge. Even the unions couldn't get him involved. He's really stubborn.
So this is a gatekeeper for sure.
He's a huge gatekeeper. He wouldn't even bring the bill to the floor.
You gotta find the scandal.
Yeah, right.
What would y'all do differently, or like what? Yeah.
He's been Senate President since 2003, sir?
Yeah.
Since 2003. He's got a stranglehold on Compass. For sure.
Yeah. Real optimistic. So y'all have to be recording too. Y'all want to add on to that?
I think, she mentioned, whether there was 15, votes or not. I think that the one thing that's the unknown about Courtney is his own personal stance. If we had 16 votes, would he still procedurally fund us?
He said yes.
Wow. And that just amplifies their idea that we need to create fear. In the U.S. House, we sometimes see shenanigans where the de facto presumptive leader is not the leader, so we maybe have to convince 15, 16 Democrats that Peter Courtney can win this district as much as he wants, but he doesn't get to be president of the Senate anymore.
So influencing the party and the party members. Okay.
I think one thing our group, we were talking about before, is it's his job to, and he considers it his job to ensure that Democrats remain in power in Salem. I'm not personally with the Democratic Party, and I'm not trying to defend him, but to him, his entire goal is to make sure that vulnerable Democrats wouldn't have to take a vote that would make them look bad before an upcoming election. So, I'm not defending that from a moral perspective, as much as that was the calculus he made, that organizations representing tenant rights and renters' rights weren't strong enough to help support people that had to take a vote, or weren't strong enough to take down somebody who voted against them. So our group said that, well, we just need to build a lot more powerful tenants. What it would mean for having, and the timer's run out.
Keep going.
Okay, what it would mean for Peter Courtney to see, wow, 2 or 3 Democrats got elected because they promised to fight on tenant rights. This clearly needs to be a stronger part of the platform of the party. That is the sort of way that we need to be getting new and traditional party partners of the Democratic Party to engage in the importance of supporting tenants.
So what I'm hearing is making housing and tenants rights like a very public platform issue that it becomes like normal and acceptable, and not risky.
You said that right? Yes.
Great, we got some good stuff here. How many people do y'all need to, do you agree that you would have to organize the entire district?
Yeah, that organizes the state.
There's a lot of organizing that needs to happen. How many more groups do we have? Okay, who wants to go next? Let's stay in the legislature.
Okay, so we have Rob Monroe, who's a Democratic senator in East Portland, who's also a landlord. And so, as one of the deciding votes for Democrats in the Senate, has a lot of power. And so we were, also looking at organizing a lot of people and having sort of like full court press of, talking to folks at his church, working to have like students and people at like the school district talk about like the, effects on education that, displacing students has. And then working with like constituents, really at a broad level, as well as like Democratic leadership in the party. So a lot of work to do in all those like different fronts of like either getting like influential people that would be persuasive to him, or just lots and lots of people in his district, or like running, pro housing candidates against him, which is also a very big thing.
Awesome. So you two had like very kind of similar situations, and almost like maybe with pressuring the Democratic Party, y'all could work together.
I didn't table with that too.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank y'all. We have the same situation. Okay. Y'all want to add anything?
You brought up a good point. Finding the scandal.
Creating one. Just create one.
Research finding out building wrote it.
Trying to morally shame him by raising awareness with his college that he's actively involved with, trying to build momentum, getting them organized, placing pressure on people that influence him, perhaps his pastor and his wife, and placing more public pressure. Let's see. What else? So organizing the building that he owns, and what else?
Building that scandal.
The idea we came up with was to put rent into an escrow account and working with the lawyers so that we would not be evicted, and have a demand letter of what we needed, and get it out to the media, put social, political, and economic pressure on the landlord, and we think we need a third of renters in the state to really do it, to make it happen. Well, we could maybe start with the City of Portland.